During the winter of 1943 to 1944, Julien Quintin attends a Catholic boarding school in occupied France, attempting to keep a tough facade on the surface, when in actuality he deeply misses his home, mother, and privileged life back in Paris. The headmaster, Father Jean, introduces new students. One student in particular, introduced as Jean Bonnet, is the same age as Julien and is met with chastisement and bullying. However, Julien wakes up to discover Jean Bonnet quietly praying in Hebrew, eventually discovering that Jean's true name is Kippelstein. Father Jean has agreed to provide sanctuary for Jewish boys at risk of losing their life to the Gestapo. After this discovery, Julien's and Jean's bond gradually grows into a dedicated and respectful friendship, Julien keeping Jean's secret to himself. Unfortunately, their friendship is destined not to last. This is Louis Malle's tragic Au Revoir Les Enfants, an autobiographical dramatic recollection of Louis Malle's own experiences attending a Roman Catholic boarding school in Fontainebleau, an intimate, authentic portrayal of unlikely young male bonding, and a depiction of brutal tragedy and betrayal that is bound to resonate with any who watch it. Au Revoir Les Enfants portrays friendship and burgeoning adolescence with the compassion and empathy similar in style to Francois Truffaut's classic The 400 Blows. Au Revoir Les Enfants' authenticity of setting and characterization is instantly believable due to Louis Malle's own immaculate attention to recollecting and dramatizing his own experiences during this time period. Roger Ebert brilliantly detailed Louis Malle's autobiographical experiences within Au Revoir Les Enfants during his piece classifying the film amongst his great films list, stating that one of the foundations of Louis Malle's Au Revoir Les Enfants is how naturally he evokes the daily life of a French boarding school in 1944. His central story shows young life hurtling forward. He knows, because he was there, that some of these lives will be exterminated. Au Revoir Les Enfants is based on a wartime memory of Louis Malle, who attended this very school, which was attached to a Carmelite monastery near Fontainebleau. The school, like many Catholic schools and other organizations, took in Jewish children under assumed names to shelter them from the Nazis. Partly as a result, some 75% of French Jews survived the war. It's clear that much of Au Revoir Les Enfants is inspired by Louis Malle's own personal experiences during this time period as a young boy in a Catholic boarding school, grounding the film's heartfelt yet tragic events within a truthful reality. This is essential in retaining the sense of era authenticity, as well as the eventual trauma that the film unravels, also preserving the believability and relatability of the characters Julien and Jean, from their resentment that gradually blooms into friendship. The growing bond between Julien and Jean is essential to Au Revoir Les Enfants, as we discover the depth of each of their characters. Julien is homesick, eager to return to Paris, but the male peer pressures of the school encourages him to put on a brave face. Jean Bonnet's difficulty in hiding his Jewish identity as not to raise suspicions towards the boarding school, as well as the lack of connection with his own parents, his father a prisoner, his mother having gone missing. These are two characters from drastically different backgrounds, one of privilege and one of struggle, yet they find a middle ground in their experiences, from their love of music to their curiosity for the most risque chapters within the Arabian Nights. The sequence when Julien and Jean become lost within the woods past curfew, long after the end of a treasure hunting game, serves as a poignant metaphor that encapsulates their relationship. Roger Ebert, within his film review, elaborates on this, having written that Le Long Day in the Forest is the story of Julien's year, the story of lost wandering, surrounded by unnamed dangers. He competes with the other students, is isolated, discovers a secret, and can share it with only one other student, Jean Bonnet. The two boys never talk about Julien keeping Jean's secret. It doesn't need saying. Are you ever afraid? Julien asks. All the time, says Jean. As Roger Ebert suggested, the sequence within the forest between Julien and Jean encapsulates the dynamic of their relationship beautifully, developing a mutual respect and closeness that is demonstrated in how Julien does not reveal Jean's true identity to anyone, understanding just enough that it would endanger his friend's life. This knowledge therefore provides additional suspense when the two boys are discovered by a Nazi vehicle and escorted back to the boarding school, the threat and fear for their lives never subsiding. After such a frightening experience, Julien and Jean would be bonded for life, which is why Au Revoir Les Enfants' conclusion conclusion has such a devastating impact. Out of a petulant spite for being fired from the kitchen due to selling food on the black market, Joseph acts as an informant to the Gestapo, who forcefully search the school premises determined to find Jewish students. The Gestapo forcefully take the Jewish students who are in hiding at the school, including Jean Bonnet, from the recognition by the Gestapo, quietly ordering Jean to gather his things. The silence from the classroom is deafening as everyone understands what this means. To the final farewells to the students in the courtyard, and even the headmaster, who is taken for providing hiding to Jewish students, to which the rest of the students declare "Au revoir mon père," a sign of unity and respect towards their headmaster, as well as a sign of defiance to the Gestapo, to which the headmaster responds "Au revoir les enfants, à bientôt," a gesture of love. It's impossible not to be emotionally affected by this heartbreaking conclusion. Discussing the autobiographical aspect of this conclusion, Roger Ebert later in his review stated that Malle never forgot the day when Nazis raided and arrested 3 Jewish students under the headmaster, Father Jacques in life, Father Jean in the film. The students and their teachers lined up in the courtyard as the little group was marched off the grounds. The priest looked back at them and said, "Au revoir les enfants," goodbye children. The 3 boys died at Auschwitz. The priest, whose birth name was Lucien Buñuel, nursed others and shared his rations at the Mauthausen camp, where he died 4 weeks after the war ended. Understanding that this specific scene is reflective of Louis Malle's own personal recollection, assisted by Louis Malle's own voice serving as a narrator, concluding the deaths of those escorted from that school courtyard in Auschwitz and Mauthausen, places the film firmly within a sobering, devastating reality. Louis Malle has lost friends in this way, and the memories of their capture, and the loss of a beautiful bond between a new friend away from the comforts of home, continued to haunt him throughout his life. For only a momentary, brief period of time, we as viewers share in his pain at the death of childhood. In conclusion, Louis Malle's Au revoir les enfants serves as a heartfelt testament to his experience as a young boy, and the bonds he built with friends he would unfortunately lose before the winter was over. Beautifully observed, never shying away from moments of humour, curiosity, and adolescent crudeness, Au revoir les enfants feels relatable and honest, effectively capturing how many children continue to behave, from the playground peer pressures to the coming-of-age curiosity regarding future opportunities. Au revoir les enfants is dashed with such a memorably tragic conclusion that, just like Louis Malle's own haunted memories, it will linger with the audience for years to come. A special thank you to my incredible tier Patreon supporter Gil, and my super tier Patreon supporters Constantine Bombelli and Victoria.